Hey, what's up guys? Dr. Jim coming at you here from Rubber City Chiropractic for another week of the mobility plan. This week we got 18.4 CrossFit Open workout. Let's dive into the work. So this week we have Diane. Diane is a 21-15-9 rep of deadlift and handstand push-ups. For the men it's 225, for the women it is 155. After you've completed that, you do then move on to the 21-15-9 workout of deadlifts at a heavier weight, 315 pounds for the men, 205 pounds for the women, followed by a 50-foot handstand walk in between those sets of the deadlift at 21-15-9. That is going to be a bruiser. Here is the prep I have for this week. We're going to work on some things to get the deadlift looking pretty. Then we're going to move into doing some things for the overhead position to get into some of the handstand work, followed by some wrist work, some neck work. Let's dive in. So guys, when it comes to any type of mobility plan, any type of exercise, any type of soft tissue work, it'd be nice to have some type of test and then retest to see if you actually affected the system as a whole. When it comes to deadlifts, a lot of our posterior chain comes into play. Glute, hamstring tie-in is what we want to be able to test first and then be able to retest after to see if we've affected that system. So get yourself on your back, keep the back flat to the ground, and while you keep one leg straight, I want you to bring the other leg up into a little bit of a bent position, and I'd like you to press your heel to the ceiling. Get a look and see how straight or not straight that knee angle is. Not very good for me. I'm pretty tight right now. I've been working at the table all day. When I come up to this leg, that one might be pretty similar or worse, same. You know, the big thing here is you want to try to assess this and see where you're at. If they're tight before, you certainly can't just jump into the workout. We're going to do a few things here, and I want you to come back and we're going to retest that to see if we affected that system. Guys, when it comes to the deadlift, we want to make sure that we've created some motion at the hip to allow us to perform the deadlift. I know it sounds simple, but a lot of times we don't take advantage of some of these motor patterns that we can burn into the system before we go and actually perform the workout. So grab yourself a band, set it up somewhere between the knee and hip height, step through the band, and today we want the band to pull backwards. Sometimes we'll set it up for pulling us sideways. Today we want it to be pulled backwards. And let's set up into just a squat pattern here, okay? We got the band going through, and in order for me to keep a straight spine, I have to work the knee outward. Sometimes the knee needs to be pressed out and in, and we're gonna call this oscillation. We can create a ball and socket torquing into the hip where we can start to create a little bit of movement in there and get some hydration into the hip to allow us to move better throughout the workout. So that is going to be step one, is to allow the system to set in this squat archetype, moving in, moving out. The second little piece is going to allow that band to still pull straight back, but we're going to get into a deep lunge position. Again, I want to work that knee out, away from the body, oscillating, holding for 2 or 3 seconds, letting it come right back in. From the side, it is going to look like that hip is being pulled straight backwards, okay? Keep the back straight, knee working out, knee working in, knee working out, knee working in, and then we can start to work backwards and forwards into that hip capsule, allowing the knee to straighten. I'm actually pushing actively into the ground. From the front, looks like that. On all of these exercises, the squat position and the lunge position, I want you to spend 2 minutes per leg, then move on to the next drill. The third piece to set up the deadlift is still going to have that band pulling behind, allowing that hip to translate backwards into the capsule, but we're going to work into a good morning position. Setting up with the band right along the hip, and you can grab a weight or hug a foam roller, and I want you to hip hinge backwards and come right back up. Squeeze the glutes, sit back, pause, come right back up. From the side, as you can expect, it is pulling back. Control everything, come right back up. Glute squeeze, sit back, 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 come right back up, glute squeeze. That could be performed for 20 reps or 2 minutes. If it's feeling good, keep on going, and then we got a couple more things to work on. I want to show you guys something pretty cool. So I worked primarily with my right leg as we did all those 3 demos there. Check this out. If I go back and I retest that, back flat on the ground, neck, head not lifted, Legs straight. When I come back up, look how much straighter I can get that knee. That is dead on. That is not what was there just a couple minutes ago. So always test, retest, see what we affected. Now we can move on to the next piece. All right, guys, so we want to continue to work up into that hamstring glute tie-in. Get yourself a lacrosse ball or the rumble roller. Get on a bench or a box that gets you a little bit higher than your knees. I want the knees to be in a semi-bent position. You're gonna take the ball and you're gonna go right up to where the glute kisses the hamstring. We're gonna take that ball and ooh, that feels so good. Get yourself nice and tall, spine straight, and we wanna get one more time into that hip hinge position. I have the ball pushing right up into the medial hamstring tie-in. It's pretty sharp. You'll know it when you're on it. Doesn't feel very good. It'll feel good when we're done. And I wanna go through 20 reps or so of a real slow hip hinge as that ball is driving right up into the attachment of the hamstring. You can play around with if you need to go more lateral, medial, but after about 20 of those, you come back up and you feel what it feels like to sit back in that hinge position. Man, this hamstring feels so open. The glutes feel like they're ready to control this position of a finishing of a deadlift. My other side, which I haven't done, it feels like it needs some attention too. So that's what I'll do before I hit this workout. Spend a couple minutes doing that. 20 reps should do the trick. Move on to the next piece. So a lot of my athletes know when we're doing deadlifts, it is important to work on the glutes, the hamstrings, the lower back, but it is equally as important to work on the muscle that sits right behind your shoulder blade that helps you reach overhead and helps you control that arm crushing into the bar. That's your lat muscle. It's this big old wing muscle right here. We're gonna put that right on the foam roller and we're just gonna hang out here. There's three components to this. There's the back side of the shoulder blade, there's the middle part of the shoulder blade, which is just gonna be on the lateral tie-in of the muscle. And then there's also the inside part, which kind of gets into the space in between the pec muscle and the scap. It's called serratus anterior. All three of those are important. So we're gonna work on the back side of the arm. Arm can be open, it can be closed. And if your lats are on fire from previous workouts of this week, you're gonna wanna spend a couple minutes here. Do not rush this, because if you release this, it is gonna set your workout further ahead than you'd believe. So hang out on the back side, 2 minutes over and under. I got the rubber roller here. Sometimes in this area, I'll just go straight foam roller with no ridges. Hang out on the middle part for another minute or two. And then honestly, I have yet to meet a CrossFitter that does not have a serratus anterior that couldn't use a little extra love. So get on this inner part. It's almost gonna be on the slab that's in the front of your ribs. Do not crack a rib, by the way. Make sure you treat this with some kindness. But get over that ridge and even allow your breath, a 4-second inhale, 8-second exhale, and let this melt. And as always, after you're done, test, retest, see how vertical you are, move on to the next piece. Guys, now we want to start prepping the wrists. Let's take care of them wrists before we go overhead with all of our body weight on these little tiny structures. Get yourself a band. This is optional. You can do all this without a band, but hook it real low to the ground. And what I'd like to do is get a little bit of traction of that wrist. We did this before with the ankle, but the band is pulling straight backwards, and I want you to take the other hand and go over this, and we just want to move the body over this area back and forth, and we're creating what's called shucking. You can get some sliding surfaces to restore and get these wrists feeling real blocked nice. By the band, pulling it that way. Come over top with this hand, and we're just moving the body back and forth over that wrist. Play with the fingers together or spread apart. You're gonna get a different feel all the way up the back of the forearm musculature there. Don't spend too much time there, a minute or two. Get some good fluid in that wrist. Move on to the next piece. The next little piece does not involve any band, but it is going to involve us getting into somewhat of a childish position. I don't know if you guys can see this, but I just did this forearm, and look how much straighter this elbow is than this one. I mean, it's not even the same. So I have not given any attention to my right side. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna bring our body weight forward and backwards over this wrist, okay? And from the side, again, we're rocking forward and backwards. A lot of my athletes have this in their daily morning protocol. This can also lead to us getting into a crawling position. Don't be afraid to go forward and backwards. You guys know I love the crawling. It always helps set the shoulders, elbows, wrists up real nice. Work on that. We got one more piece for the forearm. Last little piece for the wrist is going to involve us mashing some of the forearm musculature north of the wrist. Take your lacrosse ball, get it into the forearm flexor wad here, and let's play around with moving into some of that tissue. This stuff gets worked every workout, man. You're always picking up a kettlebell, a dumbbell, grabbing a barbell, or grabbing the rig. And these guys really don't get a lot of love, but they need it. You can just mash around on that. You can also tack and then create flexion at an extension at the next joint. That can all be done with the fingers closed or the fingers open. Spend 2 minutes per forearm there, clear all that out, and those wrists are gonna be ready to rock and roll. After you guys have prepped the wrists, it's time to put it all together. Let's go vertical. We're gonna hang out here for a minute or two, and let's start to shift our weight back and forth to get the shoulders, elbows, and wrists prepped for the handstand walks and the handstand push-ups. The last little piece here may not be the sexiest movement, but as you guys know, I'm a chiropractor and we gotta take care of the spine. Anytime we go overhead, that neck has to get out of its own way for us to get overhead cleanly. Handstand push-ups, handstand walks, no different. Grab something, give it a hug, and what I'd like you to do is we're gonna translate the neck forward, but more importantly, we're gonna call these chin tucks. Hold for a 5 count, return forward, hold for a 5 count, return forward. This gliding movement is gonna prep the cervical spine to get hydration into the discs and the facet joints. Both are contributors to a lot of neck pain, and if you can get that to start moving, you might just find that overhead position gets a little bit easier for you. Thanks again, guys, for tuning in to this week's mobility plan, 18.4, the CrossFit Open. Let me know how you guys did. Have fun. Have a wonderful weekend. Catch you next week.